Okay, good evening. Oh, wow, this works. It was not nearly that loud at the work session. Look how quiet everybody got though. That was good. Good evening. I'd like to welcome you to our January the 14th, 2025 Hanover County School Board. And I would entertain a motion to return from closed session. Do I have a motion?
You have a motion to return to session.
Thank you, Mr. Seifert. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Coleman. Is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? Motion carries. And I need a motion to certify closed session. Coach Ike, did you find it? Is it in my binder? All right, hold on. Let me find it then, if it's in my binder. Here you go. Look at this. It's on pretty yellow pages, but that's when we change locations, see?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to certify the session whereas Hanover County School Board has convened closed meeting on this date pursuant to an affirmative recorded vote and in accordance with the provisions of the Freedom of Information Act. And whereas Section 2.2-3712D of the Code of Virginia requires a certification by the school board that such executive meeting was conducted in conformity with Virginia law. Now therefore be it resolved that the Hanover County School Board hereby certifies that to the best of each member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements by Virginia law were discussed in the executive meeting to which this certification applies, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion convening the executive meeting were heard, discussed, or considered.
Thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
A motion and a second. Mr. Coleman, is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. It's been a pretty tough week for us in Hanover County Public Schools, especially. I know everybody enjoyed having the extra week off, but we lost a student this past week due to health issues. And so I'm going to ask everybody to please join me in a moment of silence for the recent passing of Rowan Hayden. Rowan was a Hanover High School student who also attended the Advanced College Academy at Patrick Henry High School. Our thoughts are with the Hayden family, their friends, and their school community. Please join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. Tonight, first of all, welcome back to the Hanover County School Board office. Nice to see everybody back here. As I'm sure everybody remembers, we are renovating the building out at the courthouse, the public admin building. And in fact, the Board of Supervisors will meet here tomorrow afternoon, actually. So they'll be in here tomorrow afternoon too. So with that, we would ask that you join us in our invocation and then our Pledge of Allegiance. Our Pledge of Allegiance this evening is going to be led by Ben Boston, a junior at Atlee High School, who's a member of the volleyball team and is being recognized tonight. Who has the invocation? Oh, Coach Ike.
Merciful and gracious God, thank you for your presence in this building tonight. I come to you to heal the hearts within our school community from recent tragedies. I pray for comfort, peace, and strength to those seeking your compassion. I pray for students that they know peace. I pray for teachers that they possess wisdom. I pray for parents that they show understanding and continue to be actively involved helping their children in our schools. I pray for our administrative staff and those in leadership positions that they exhibit patience and understanding. And I pray for this board that they lead by keeping the main thing, which are our students. Lord God in heaven, let us be faithful stewards to educate the next generation and honor you through unity, using your teachings of mercy and humility. I pray this in your name. Amen.
Thank you, Coach. Ben, you want to come forward? Good that you brought a fan club with you. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Okay, as we continue on with our meeting now, I do just want to acknowledge one thing. I am a little bit laid up tonight. I had knee surgery a week ago, and I'm still recovering. I had some problems from the last 2 days, so I have a brace locking me out. So you'll see me sitting up here, and I'll put my leg up to try to keep the swelling down. So I apologize for that, and you'll probably not see me put a coat on tonight. So I ask that you indulge me in not putting a jacket on because of my knee surgery. And with that, we would entertain a motion to approve our meeting minutes from our last meeting.
So moved.
Coach Ike, is there a second? Ms. Welch, is there any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. And at this time, it's time for the recognition and announcements. Mr. Whitley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Pennycuff. It is always a pleasure to bring forth the great news of the school division. Our first recognition of the night goes to the VHSL Class 4A State Boys Volleyball Champs from Atlee High School. This is the Raiders' first boys volleyball state championship in school history. Congratulations, Raider Nation. At this time, please join me in congratulating and welcoming Coach Nicole Yo and Principal Dr. John Wheeler, who will recognize their players and coaches.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. Pennycuff, and senior staff, and we certainly would like to take this time to thank you for recognizing the outstanding student athletes and coaches of the Atlee High School boys volleyball team. The 2024 season was one for the Atlee High School record books for the team that we were about to recognize. As you all know, building a state championship culture takes many years. In this particular case, our boys volleyball team had an extremely solid run the previous school year, advancing all the way to the state championship finals for the first time in school history, where they lost to county rival Patrick Henry High School. Using last year's loss in the finals as motivation, the boys and our first-year head coach, Nicole Yo, had one and only mission: to dethrone the Patriots of Patrick Henry and bring their first state championship to Raider Nation. Sorry, Mr. Seifert. On Saturday, November 23rd, their mission was accomplished as they defeated a very talented team from that school located down Route 301 in Hanover in straight sets to win their very first state championship. They finished the 2024 season with a record of 20-5. 5 players were selected to the all-region team and 2 players were selected to the all-state team. At this time, if the following team members would make their way forward and join us on stage. Number 1, Senior Cooper Conrad. Number 2, Sophomore Parker Powell. Number 3, Junior Aiden Allison. Number 4, Sophomore Chase Eckel. Number 5, Sophomore Alex Apostolides. Number 6, Sophomore Bryce Whitlock. Number 7, Senior Bryce Bedford. Number 8, Junior Grant Wolford. Number 9, Senior Vaughn Mayo. Number 10, Senior Bryce Skeeper. Number 11, junior Ben Boston. Number 12, junior Anthony Ludlow. Number 13, senior Drew Orrock. Number 14, freshman Reed Hilton. Number 15, senior Sam Cook. And number 17, junior Vaughn Sino. At this time, I would like to introduce our first year head coach with Nicole Yo, also a special education teacher at Atlee High School, assistant coaches Jonathan Frame and Margaret Ann Chesventer, and our outstanding athletic director, Michael Kidd, who's in audience today.
He's that one guy, right? That was Mr. Wheeler's, Dr. Wheeler's responsibility to tell him. Go to Bobby. Glory days.
Now we're gonna look at this one right here. We're gonna look right over there. Perfect. We're gonna look right back here real quick. Awesome, congratulations.
Right over there, good. You're on a roll, Mr. Whitley. Keep it going.
Right. Okay. Our next recognition of the evening highlights the 30th anniversary of Hanover County Ag or Agriculture Day. At this time, please join me in welcoming our curriculum specialist for science, Mr. Wayne Gilchrist, who will recognize those who have been vital to ensuring the lasting success of this important annual event. Mr. Gilchrist.
Chairman May, school board members, Dr. Pennicuff, senior staff. This is one of the highlights of my year. For decades, we have offered Ag Day to every third grader in the county. We have exposed them to all of the different things that go into Virginia's largest private industry. It started with individual schools. It outgrew Poor Farm Park and is now at the state fairgrounds at the Colonial Farm Credit Pavilion. This year was our 30th event, and almost 1,300 students and 150 teachers and parents rotated through stations looking at livestock, crops, bees, soil, machinery, and aquaculture. None of this would be possible without the initial vision of retired principal Billy Young and the continued support of Colonial Farm Credit's Megan Arrington and Cap Hardwood for this stellar event. It enriches our young people and helps them to understand where all of the stuff that we use comes from. So thank you.
Perfect, all right. Perfect. There we go, big smiles. Congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Whitley. I think you're done. Making sure. The announcements of our public budget presentations, time and dates. Terry, are you prepared for that? Or are you looking for me to do that? I would if I had it in front of me, but I don't. It's next Tuesday, right? I got it. It's the 21st. We are doing our budget presentation. The school board meeting budget presentation will be here at 6 p.m. next Tuesday night, the 21st. January 21st, 6 p.m. Superintendent will present the budget to us for our consideration, 6 p.m. next Tuesday night, the 21st. I'm dragging this out, just people are leaving. And then we'll go ahead and start now and go around with board member announcements. Any announcements on this side of the room? Mr. Martin.
I have a couple. First, I have a third grader who got to go to Ag Day and she loved it. So thank you. Couldn't stop talking about it. And while Mr. Kidd is still here and Dr. Wheeler, I wanted to give a Hanover County shout out to former Atlee Raider Tyler Warren, who is a standout for Penn State and was most outstanding player in the Fiesta Bowl, be a first-round draft pick, no doubt, in the spring. I don't remember the last Hanover athlete that's made that big of an impact on the national level, so I thought that was pretty cool and wanted to recognize him as a former Raider myself. The other just public service sort of announcement, one of the great things that this county offers to underprivileged and financially challenged folks is the opportunity to get free and reduced meals. I think a lot of our people in the county don't know that that's out there. There's a lot of people that probably would be eligible if they apply. So for those that are watching at home, that period is open, Ms. Baker, till when?
We are sending out a communication to all families, but you can apply anytime during the year.
Okay, thank you very much. I just wanted to put that out there because I don't think a lot of people realize that there's that opportunity. That's all I got. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else? Anybody on this side? This side? I just have a couple of comments to mention tonight. Principal Appreciation Week, and we appreciate all our principals, especially you, Dr. Wheeler, because I think you're the only one I see in the room. So we really appreciate you tonight. But the governor has proclaimed this week as Virginia School Principals Appreciation Week. And so we are blessed with such talented principals who are truly dedicated to the betterment of our students, staff, and the school community. And I would also be remiss if I didn't mention that the Hanover Education Foundation held their gala on December the 12th, and it was a fabulous event, a very great evening. We all had a wonderful time, and we appreciate all that they've done. I want to take this opportunity to remind our families that it is not too late to complete the free or reduced meal application. Doing so is simple. At the school division outlined is the, what are you doing? Did what?
I don't think he was listening.
You what? Oh, sorry about that.
Hey, there's power, strength in numbers. Go ahead, finish.
I have my list of things that I printed and I just wasn't paying attention when you spoke, Ryan. I'm sorry. And finally, the superintendent search meetings. We had our first meeting was Monday night with the community. Pretty well attended, lots of good conversation. We're having another meeting this coming Thursday at 7 p.m. at Mechanicsville High School with our HYA, community HYA team that is leading our search, our executive search for our next superintendent. And then we have two Zoom meetings, which is January 22nd and January 23rd, 7 p.m. So lots of opportunities for the community to be involved. We're really happy with the input so far from those that have been asked to participate. We feel like we're getting a really nice input from our staff, and the teachers and the administration. So really happy with the participation so far. So with that, I will close board member announcements. Let somebody else. Oh, Coach Ike now has one.
Yeah, since this is our first meeting after the holiday season and the extended holiday season, and who knows, it might be in another extended holiday season down the road with more winter coming, but we've not met since. I just wanted to, it kind of struck a chord with Dr. Wheeler being here and unfortunately being the only principal here, but I wanted to congratulate the principals and I guess point of contacts in each of the schools that we kind of found out last year about that some families have shortages during the holiday season with foods and gifts. And I know that the schools really do partner amongst themselves to find out where the needy families are. And at times they reach out to this board and this board covers it without a blink. But you guys do all the hard work and I want to commend you for that and thank you for that. And I wish Tyler Warren all the best in the world. I watched him perform all year, but I want to say it, and I don't want to jinx him or anything, but the last time that somebody that celebrated went to the NFL was Damian Woody, and he's got 2 Super Bowl rings. So, yeah, maybe he's on his way to doing that, which would be kind of neat. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. It is neat to get to do that in a holiday period, to be able to have our board support the schools in that way and ensure that students that are in need of meals are able to get a nice holiday meal out of it. We appreciate that. Okay, I'll close board member announcements and would now entertain a motion to approve our consent agenda.
So moved.
Coach Ike, is there a second? Ms. Welsh, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. And now that we've approved the consent agenda, I can publicly do this recognition, which we're very happy to do. Tonight, your board met with our newest employee starting, well, we voted her in tonight, but she's going to start with us in February. We're very honored to have with us Dr. Melissa Reams, who will be our new Director of Elementary Education. So Dr. Reams. And she has with us, her husband is with us tonight also, Hugh Reams. So Hugh, we appreciate you being here also. You're part of the family now. So welcome. Dr. Melissa Reams comes with a doctorate from William and Mary, and she has been a principal in Goochland for many years. And we are very honored to have her and look forward to her joining our staff as soon as she possibly can start coming this way instead of going west. So with that being said, thank you and welcome, Dr. Reams. And with that, we'll get to our instructional highlight now, and Dr. Sherry Beth Fisher will do our quarterly academic report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Pennycuff, and senior staff. During the December school board work session, we provided an extensive update to inform you of our implementation of the division literacy plan, including professional learning and resources for teachers, the instructional block and practice, teachers' use of adopted HMH resources, and student performance. I'm joining you this evening to share the impact of our current elementary literacy practices based on data collected during the first semester of this year. Of course, all of our work is guided by the Virginia Literacy Act and is tied to Hanover's comprehensive plan, with high-quality literacy instruction being a significant component of Goal 1, Objective 1. Now, before diving into elementary literacy data, I wanted to take a brief opportunity to share Hanover students' overall performance across each content area based on last spring's SOL tests. While we are pleased that our students have achieved at the highest levels across the Metro Richmond area, we continue to aim for 100% of students meeting expectations. Our intentional work in the area of literacy, particularly in our elementary schools, will lead to even higher levels of student achievement. So, as you know, there have been many substantial changes in literacy over the past few years. From new standards and curriculum resources to new assessments and interventions, our teachers deserve praise and celebration. Their willingness to respond to educational research and deliver the highest quality instruction is the primary reason that I am able to stand before you this evening and celebrate student growth. They've made incredible strides, and you will see in this data that our students are reaping the benefits. Our kindergarten through third graders are participating in the Virginia Language and Literacy Screening System assessments this year. The purpose of VALS is twofold. First, scores can be used to identify students at risk for reading difficulties. Additionally, the screener measures both foundational literacy skills and oral language development, which are predictive of later literacy achievement. This information allows our teachers to design instruction that targets student needs. After students complete each subtest, the screening system categorizes them into one of three risk bands. Students who are identified as high risk receive an individualized reading plan. Results on the screen reflect our initial fall assessments. Students are currently in the process of taking the mid-year assessments. We are proud that in each grade level, our highest percentages of students are at low risk for developing reading difficulties. First grade results were especially exciting because they were a direct reflection of the impact that explicit systematic phonics instruction had on these developing readers during their kindergarten year last year. According to the VALS screener, 81% of our K-3 students in Hanover are demonstrating appropriate foundational literacy skills, which is certainly a celebration. While we anticipate the VALS test being available to our upper elementary students in the future, it currently only goes to third grade. So we continued the battery of assessments we adopted last year with our fourth and fifth graders. The first assessment in the battery, the informal decoding inventory, requires students to read both real decodable words and nonsense words that follow typical decodable spelling patterns. Nonsense words allow us to assess whether a student has mastered phonics skills and can decode automatically without drawing on their memory. Here you can see how our current fourth graders are firming up their phonics skills to read complex words. You can see significant growth from August to December in reading words with all syllable patterns. Students' mastery of reading real open syllable words increased from 64% to 75%, while their ability to read the pattern in nonsense words grew from 58% to 76%. Fifth graders are demonstrating similar growth, just at higher rates due to their additional year of schooling. You will notice the greatest instructional focus and impact here was on words with open syllable patterns, as students increased their mastery from 76% to 85% for real words and 66% to 84% for nonsense words. Their mastery of these skills is especially critical, as these were the students who were kindergartners at the start of the pandemic. And of course, they'll be transitioning to middle school next fall. The second test in the battery of assessments is called an oral reading fluency assessment. This requires the student to read a grade level passage accurately at a reasonable rate and with comprehension. In this table, you can see students' progress from spring of third grade to December of fourth grade. Research indicates that we should see an improvement first in students' accuracy, followed by an increased reading rate, and eventually comprehension gains. This is precisely what we see in our fourth grade data, which is particularly impressive because the grade level text becomes more complex each quarter. The expected words correct per minute and comprehension expectations also rise each quarter. Again, our fifth graders are also completed this test and are showing a similar progression, with only 51% of them reading within the expected range of words correct per minute in the spring of fourth grade, to now 78% of them falling within that expected range. Our third test within the battery of assessments is new this year. The HMH Into Reading materials we adopted include a spelling inventory that is administered like a spelling test that you and I may have taken in school. Similar to the decoding inventory, this is scored based on mastery of word patterns. While our fourth graders have certainly gained skills from August to December, with their highest growth in spelling and inflectional endings, spelling is an area of focus for us as we move into second semester. You will notice that fifth graders are expected to master even more spelling patterns, including advanced prefixes, suffixes, and Greek and Latin roots. Spelling will be an area of focus for them as well as we move into second semester. Overall, we are proud to share that all elementary students have made significant progress between August and December, and we're confident we will continue to do so as we become increasingly familiar with our new standards and resources. As you can see here, our teachers consistently find engaging ways to use these resources, and our students, of course, soak up all of the opportunities. Our teachers' dedication and our students' success is certainly worthy of celebration, and I thank you for allowing me to provide updates to the board and the community at large. Thank you.
So Dr. Fisher, I just have to ask, were you chosen to present this month because we knew Dr. Reams was going to be announced tonight and so she could see what she was coming into? So I just had to
No,
ask.
but I'm very excited to partner with her in
Okay,
this
good.
work.
Oh, good. All right. Any comments from the board? Any questions? Go ahead, Ms. Welsh.
Thank you so much for sharing that, and congratulations on the success to you and your team, and to all the parents out there. Like, this is a huge win
Mhm.
for your children. So pay attention to it. So-
Yes. And a huge shout out again to the teachers who are doing the hard work in the trenches. It's a lot of new for them, and they are really embracing it and doing what's best for kids. And we can see it in the data. So it's
Absolutely.
exciting.
And it has been these teachers have worked so hard
Amen.
to learn this
Absolutely.
material.
Yes.
And it's taken a lot of time outside of the classroom
Mhm.
on them. And so I do appreciate them 100%, and it's working. So thank you.
Yes. Yes.
Any other questions, comments? What do you attribute it to our new program, the HMH? And is it a consolidation of everything? What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, I think that we've been making some deliberate efforts over the past 3 years, and they're all kind of coming together and leading to this like larger impact now. But absolutely, I think HMH is streamlining things and helping people know exactly what the expectations are, and then they can follow that with integrity. So,
Excellent.
yes, yes.
Thank you, Dr.
Thank
Fisher.
you all so much.
Thank you. All right. And with that, we'll move into introduction and discussion. And let's start with athletics.
Right.
Ms. Greif.
All right. Chairman May, board members, Dr. Pennycuff, earlier today, you received a report from staff on the Health Science Specialty Center and what options might be available related to enrollment and athletics. To summarize for those in attendance here and those listening at home, we shared with the board what some of our recent data shows about the population of athletes at Hanover High. And so this data table provides a breakdown for all of our athletes into 3 buckets. The first bucket is students who would have attended Oak Knoll, who now attend Hanover High School, and are not part of the Hanover Health Sciences Specialty Center. The second bucket are students who are a part of the Hanover Science Specialty Center, but would have already attended Hanover High School to begin with. And then the third bucket are students who attended one of our other 3 middle schools or came from outside of our middle schools and are part of the Health Science Specialty Center. And so you can see that the percentages have remained fairly steady for the course of the 3 years. And so that's just a table of the athletes who attend Hanover High School. We conversed and checked in with both the VDOE and the Virginia High School League to determine what the possibilities might be. Both of those agencies and organizations give a lot of latitude to school boards to make the best decision for their communities. For the VDOE, it's just about the school board having a policy and practice in place. And then we just make sure that we report out the data appropriately according to those decisions. And with the Virginia High School League, it's really pretty cut and dry. A student may have athletic eligibility in the school where they will earn their diploma. And so where they start as ninth graders, how they are enrolled and tracked in our system is the way that it will be reported back out, and you gain your eligibility status in that way. So staff really looked at 3 different options and went through these options with the school board this afternoon. When you look at the table, the first column is the one for current practice. As most of our community knows, students who apply to and are accepted and then accept the acceptance to attend the Health Science Specialty Center immediately become Hanover Hawks for all purposes, academic purposes, athletic purposes, whatever that might be. All of their classes are taken at Hanover High. The other 2 options that are being considered by the board, option A would be almost a flip of that, and students who are accepted into the Health Science Specialty Center would then still remain attached to their geographically zoned school. And so they would attend classes at Hanover High, but all of their data, all of their reporting, and their diploma would all be tied to the high school where they would be geographically zoned. Option B is a little bit of a hybrid, where the students themselves and their families have the opportunity, one opportunity, as they are rising ninth graders, to declare whether they would like to remain attached to their geographically zoned school or whether they would like to follow the current model and become attached to Hanover High School. The rest of the information in the table goes through how VDOE takes care of reporting considerations and what our obligations as a division would be. For example, discipline, attendance, academics. In our current practice, everything belongs data-wise to Hanover High School for those students. In option A, the data would revert back to the geographically zoned school. So a student who is a Health Science Specialty Center student, but is zoned for Atlee High School, would attend all of the classes at Hanover High, but any discipline, any attendance, any academic would revert back to Atlee High School. Class rank would be calculated in the cohort of Atlee High School, and the diploma would be issued by Atlee High School. In option B, where we give the choice to the students as they are rising ninth graders, that data would then follow the student according to that student's choice. So a student coming from Atlee who says, I want to just be enrolled as a Hanover Hawk, everything data-wise will stay at Hanover High School. But that same student from Atlee who might say, I'd rather participate back at my geographically zoned and I want to remain attached to Atlee, all of that student's data would revert back to Atlee High School. When we look at the athletic components of this, we can see that the changes are very much in line with a very simple understanding of whoever owns the student's enrollment for purposes of graduation and diploma is where that student is eligible to participate in athletics. So in our current situation, they are eligible to play at Hanover High School from day 1. In option A, students are eligible to participate at their geographically zoned school from day 1. And in the hybrid model, option B, it will depend upon the choice that the student makes. And so that would be a consistent one-time decision, not a back and forth opportunity or revert back and forth. So the one other piece that we wanted to bring to the attention of the board is transportation. We acknowledge that right now we provide transportation to our Health Science Specialty Center from throughout the county. And so we deliver our students there for the academic day, and students who are participating in athletics or any other extracurricular activity continue to just stay through the day and transition into extracurricular activities in the afternoon. Excuse me. In this case, parents pick up from the end of practice or pick up from a game at Hanover High School. In option A, we do have to consider what the transportation might look like from the end of the academic day into the transition to extracurriculars at the end. Our current situation has us on a hub system, and you can see where the hub schedule delivers health science specialty students back to their geographical location. And you can see that that varies widely, with students getting back to Atlee fairly early and getting back to Patrick Henry fairly late. During the work session earlier today, the conversation came up around this, as we understand that this is sort of the equity piece of the conversation, or the equality piece of the conversation. Do all students have the same opportunity, or is it dependent upon whether their parents can drive them and they don't have to wait and to get home at Patrick Henry until 4:50? And so we went back in the interim between the work session and here, and we've charged staff with looking at whether there can be other transportation configurations that might provide opportunities that are a little bit more even throughout the county, so that it isn't about a rising ninth grader making a choice based upon their parents' ability to step in and help with that. And so we will bring that back to you next month. We already do have some ACA transportation that's only an every other day option, but because that's direct from school to school, it does tend to cut those times down a little bit. So we will bring you some of those options, and also bring you the cost associated with expanding that transportation option. In option B, we see that some of the students would have no problem. They would just continue on at Hanover High into the extracurricular time period after school, whereas others would also be reliant upon that transportation. So I did ask for a bit of information, as I just said, related to the ACA. Currently, the bus that runs every other day from Patrick Henry back to Hanover High School is a 4:05 arrival. And the Mechanicsville bus running back to Atlee is a 4:15 arrival. So there is some impact to our ACA students who rely on the transportation, who are athletes. And so I did ask the principals at Hanover High and Atlee to just give me an estimate, because I knew that they weren't sitting in front of their computers to look this up. And they both said 10 to 15 students of their ACA are participating in athletics throughout the year. And so that is the end of the report, and we are happy to bring back any other information that you would like for next month.
Any new questions that we want to ask, or anything else from any board members? Ms. Lynn, are you just jumping to do it?
No, I just wanted to say I appreciate you bringing up the transportation thing, because I don't want this to be a program that only the kids who have parents that are fortunate enough to be able to drive them can participate in fully. So I'm glad you're going to do that. I really appreciate that.
Thank you, Ms. Lynn. Anybody else?
I just have a question. So
Ms. Welsh?
buses, or is it one bus that's taking them to all three schools?
3 buses. Well, for the ACA, it's 1 bus in each direction every other day. Currently, our hub locations, it's not just a single bus from Hanover to Patrick Henry. Depends on where the students live, where the hubs are arranged each year. That's something that Mr. Frierson reroutes every single year, depending upon the students that we serve.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Seifert?
And I'll say it's not just, giving the kids the opportunity who have the means to do it, but it's also, some kids don't want to leave their high school and their friends and that. So if there's a way to allow them to stay at their high school and still benefit from this, so I really appreciate you looking at the other options. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Coach Ike?
I want to thank you for going back after the work session and answering my question. I greatly appreciate that. Appreciate that. But the other piece, though, of that 9.09% on the very first page is fall of 2024. You have any idea how many of them are juniors and seniors that drive?
I don't right now. I would have to, I don't know what their driving status will be. I can tag which ones are juniors and seniors, but I wouldn't be able to tell you.
Because I see the numbers have shrunk since 22, 23.
I think it's more that the fall of 2024 is a different sport, like a different arrangement of sports than what you might see in the winter or in the spring. And so you just might have students with different interests playing in different sports in different seasons. So in the fall, it's very heavy on football. right? And so a good percentage of our fall athletes are football players, and that just may change the percentages.
I'm just wondering then, is the winter or the spring going to be the most needy for transportation for the hub?
Right. We definitely would see some ebb and flow depending upon the sporting season. I think that's going to be a little bit difficult to predict because, as we know, the students who are coming in as ninth graders haven't made any team yet.
Right.
Back at their geographical zone school or at Hanover High. And so predicting out who might need it during what season for the rising ninth graders would be difficult.
Well, maybe looking back at what they did in the past, what was the school year 22-23 for those seasons, and also 23-24 for those seasons might give us a little bit better handle on what to expect, and then might give us more data in order to make a decision next month.
Okay.
Yep. Thank you, Ms. Greif.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? All righty. Thank you, Ms.
All right.
Greif.
Thank
Excellent
you.
job as usual. And with that, we will now turn over to our school boundary adjustment update. There she is. I couldn't find you anywhere, so you are here. Bye, Dr. Reams. We look forward to seeing you again.
Hello. Thank you for having me, Chair May, Vice Chair Eikenberry, Dr. Pennycuff, and board members. My name is McKay Larrabee. I'm here with MGT Impact Solutions. I'm here to give an update on the student forecasting and boundary adjustment process. Here's a brief agenda of what we're going to cover tonight. We'll look at the demographic and economic overview. We'll go into the forecasting methodology. We'll look at residents versus enrollment. We'll look at capacity and utilization, the actual results of the student forecasts, the guiding principles that are guiding the decision-making for the boundary scenarios, and then attendance areas and feeder patterns. This is where we are in the process and the schedule. We started back in August of 2024, gathering a lot of data. It's a very data-driven process. We are currently in phase 3, which is developing the iterative scenarios, and we will be having community meetings at the end of this month that'll go through at the end of this presentation. We'll then refine those scenarios based on community feedback, and then in March and April, we'll be rounding out for final boundary options. Just an overview of how Hanover County compares to the state and the nation. You are expected to grow by around 12%. That's much higher than the state and the nation averages based on census data. Your population growth by age structure shows that you're expected to increase by 6% in both elementary and middle and also in high school, 6% each. The really interesting piece about this age structure is that you can see that the age groups of 55 to 65 are actually declining in the next 10 years. And what that means is that you have an older age structure within the county of Hanover. So as those families leave and downsize, those kids will be grading out of the system. And so you're going to experience quite a bit of resales within the county of Hanover. Your population by race and ethnicity is largely white, non-Hispanic, but it is expected to grow more diverse over the next 10 years. Your largest industry currently is in retail trade. However, transportation and warehousing is your top growth industry. So that's likely going to take over the top spot in a few years. The community at large, looking at the community as a whole, the median household income is about $104K. You've got about 41,000 households, and most of those were built between 1970 and 1999. If we look at just parents or guardians of children in public school, we see that 83.3% of those families live in owner-occupied houses, largely have bachelor's degrees or higher, and are mostly in management in the labor force. And the median household income is a bit higher at $136,000. This is an overview of our methodology for forecasting. The three main factors allow us to predict student populations in the future. Our birth factors, looking at birth rates within the county of Hanover, allow us to predict the kindergarten classes 5 years later. The mobility factors look at grade over grade, growth or contraction, and then the student yield factors are applied to future growth within the county as far as housing developments. This is a bit of, we start with the student data. We have 4 years of student data. It's verified with the division. We place each student at their household. And then we also break the county into 448 study areas. These are smaller data units that we can use to predict student growth or contraction at. Here's an overview of where those students live. The hotter, the more yellow dots represent higher density. So you can see you've got some density in Ashland and Mechanicsville and above, right above Richmond. These are your birth rates and birth factors for the next foreseeable future. So this is what we utilize to understand what we can expect for kindergarten. 2 things that make you an outlier are that you have increasing birth rates, which is not happening in most of the rest of the United States at this point. You do have a little bit of fluctuation, but the trend is going upward. So that's good news. It means more students. And then you also have an extremely high capture rate, meaning that you're capturing over 100% of the births that were happened 5 years prior. We don't see this. We've only seen this in 2 other districts that I've worked with. It's very rare. It means that there's a lot of inward mobility, a lot of resales, a lot of families moving in. This is also positive news. You've got positive mobility factors in your grade progression ratios, meaning that your grade progression, so for Ashland Elementary School from K to 1, your mobility factor is 1.06. This means if you have 100 kindergartners, you can expect to have 106 first graders, meaning that inward mobility. The green areas, the green cells show inward mobility, the yellow outward mobility, and 1.0 is neither in or out. You do see some outward mobility in the higher grades, in the high school grade group. That is normal just due to attrition and having more choice. You also see a little bit lower or higher outward mobility from 5th to 6th, and that's normal with grade transitions, grade group transitions. We also looked at all of the development within Hanover County. You have quite a few developments throughout the county. They're not extremely large. They're smaller developments. And so again, that inward mobility is being driven by your resales. However, we looked at your student yield factors. So for single family detached, there in the table on the right, your student yield factor is 0.512. Meaning for every 100 units of single-family detached homes, you can expect to get around 51 students in grades K-12. And these are all phased out. I will say that a lot of the phasing happens in the first 5 years. There's a lot more unknown in the 5 to 10-year forecast. I'm going to speak briefly about the elementary attendance areas and then talk about where students live and where they go to school. You have 14 elementary schools, 4 middle schools, and 4 high schools. At each of those schools, we need to understand functional capacity, meaning if a school feels overly full or underly full. We do that by looking at staffing worksheets, building plans and layouts, loading standards, current enrollment. And this was cooperative back and forth with the division leadership to come at this functional capacity. This is a really good tool that's used to understand where your students live and where do they go to school. The darker boxes in the diagonal show that those students live and go. They live in the attendance area that they are assigned to. And so that third column kind of shows this is how many students are living within that boundary. And as you go down the column, say for Ashland, you're looking at where students are being pulled from and transferring into. So if you look at the bottom row, you're looking at what a principal would see in their in their school. So for Ashland Elementary School, there's 611 students coming in from within the county. 12 students come in from outside of the county, and then there's also 46 PK that are accounted for separately. So principal would likely see around 669 students in that school. But it shows you the kind of transfer patterns throughout the district, and you have very low transfer patterns. So most students are living within and attending their assigned school. This is a look at the utilization piece. So we're looking at the number of students within that school and the school, functional school capacity. So we have a residence column that looks at the number of, if all the students that lived in that attendance area went to that school. For example, Cool Spring Elementary School would be at 110% of its capacity. The enrollment column shows how many students are actually there, at least in October of 2024. So it is currently at 112% of capacity from an enrollment standpoint for K-5. And then it shows a little bit of the in and out. It also highlights other areas that might be underutilized, such as South Anna at 62% utilized. Pole Green is at 66 or 68% utilized. And then, so there are other pieces in here to look at other than being overly utilized. Here's a look at that same piece from a middle school perspective. You can see that very little movement between middle schools, a lot low transfer rate. And you do see that Chickahominy Middle School is at 95% of capacity. And then if you look at the residence piece, you see that Oak Knoll Middle School is at 63% of capacity. This is a look at the high school with that same attendance matrix on the left. If you look at the right at the utilization, you can see that Atlee High School is currently at 90% of capacity, and Hanover High School is at 66 if we're looking at residence-based. So we put that all together and run our resident student forecasts. And so what you can see here is some of the dips in enrollment or in resident student population in the lighter cells. The darker the cell, it just means it's a larger cohort. So you can expect, you've got also historic numbers there on the left. We expect the district to grow by 850 students over the next 10 years, 350 in growth in K-5, 350 in 6-8, and about 150 in 9-12. There's a bit of a dip that we are expecting in 9-12 in the first half of the forecast, and as those larger grade groups filter into high school, we expect that to recover and go on an upward trajectory. Here's a look at, so that was just the resident students. When we add in the out-of-district students, we can look at the total student ratios, and we see that it's the same trend. So K-5 is set to increase by about 5%, 6 through 8 by about 9.3%, and 9 through 12 by about 2%, for an overall growth of about 5.2% over the 10-year forecast. So we know that your district is growing, your division is growing, but we don't know exactly where. So we look at where it is growing, and there is uneven growth throughout the county. The darker, these are study areas, as I mentioned earlier. Each study area has about 50 to 75 students in it. You can see in the dark purple, that's growth. So this is a 5-year outlook for K through 12. Those dark purple mean growth either in housing development that we're expecting or in resales. The darker orange colors mean contraction. So that's aging in place or low mobility with resales. So we've got to look at where that growth is happening throughout the district, both now and in the future. You don't want to make any decisions in boundary adjustments if you don't have an idea of what those adjustments might do in the future. So it's really important to look at, this graph has the larger blue background is the capacity of each of the schools. The gray bars are the current student population. The lighter pink bars are what that student population is predicted to be in 2029, so the 5-year outlook. And the darker pink is what we expect the student population to look like in 2034. So the pieces that stand out first off are Cool Spring Elementary. There's an overutilization issue there now that is only going to be more dramatic in the 5-year. It's set to drop a tiny bit in the 10-year, stabilize out, but it's going to be an issue in the future. And then there's other pieces here that are important where there's a lot of space between those pink bars and the top of the blue bar. So you've got South Anna that appears to be underutilized, as well as Pole Green. And then you have areas like Rural Point, which doesn't appear to be an issue now. However, there is growth expected in that attendance area. And so you have that growth in the 5 and 10-year, which would put it close to capacity. The other thing that I want to point out here is that Washington Henry is expected to increase its capacity. So it is close to capacity where we are now, but with the new capacity that's set to open up in school year 2027, that is expected to have more space. So that's expected to go up to 495. So we know where they look. We know what the schools look like on a graph. But where are they on the map? If the most overcapacity was right next to the most undercapacity, then that makes things a little bit more direct. However, what likely would need to happen is that students would need to be shifted in order to even out that utilization. So you have Cool Spring, and the darker the color, the higher the utilization, the lighter the color, the lower. So you can see South Anna and Pole Green there in the lighter yellow, and then Cool Spring in the darker blue. And that is the current, the 5 and the 10-year. So it's important to look at this geographically and not just on a graph. This is the same aspect from the standpoint of middle and high school. Here you can see that Chickahominy Middle School and Atlee High School are both they're up there in capacity, in utilization. What we don't see in just looking at the current is that Atlee High School is expected to be over capacity in the 5-year forecast and in the 10-year forecast. Chickahominy is expected to be close to capacity in the 10-year forecast. On the flip side of that, you've got Oak Knoll Middle School with a lot of space, and you have Hanover High School with a lot of space. And this is another look at it from the geographic perspective. So you see the darker colors mean higher utilization, lighter mean lower utilization. And then this is a look at the high school. And so you have that really dark color in the 5-year at Atlee. That goes into, I think, 102% utilized, and then 103% utilized. So you have uneven growth within your district. You know that you have an immediate need in a school that is over capacity. So how do you make decisions about boundary modifications? Well, you use guiding principles. So the executive team and you all have developed guiding principles to help your decision-making core values. These are extremely hard. This is not an easy process by any means. You've got to keep in mind special populations, keeping neighborhoods together, minimizing impact, your feeder patterns, transportation, capacity and utilization. There's a lot of pieces that go into making these decisions. And a lot of these are contradictory to one another. So you might really want to keep neighborhood schools. However, you might have some natural boundaries or barriers or split feeder patterns. So working with all of these, came up with these are the guiding principles for this process. to balance utilization, not only now, but also in the 5 and 10-year forecasts, to minimize the number of students impacted by boundary adjustments, to maintain those neighborhood schools, consider transportation impacts, and also minimize disruption and impacts to special programs or special populations. Some considerations that we wanted to look at more closely. Geographically, this is Cool Spring in the center in the pink, and then its neighboring elementary schools surrounding it. These are the attendance areas. So you've got natural boundaries up there to the north of Cool Spring. You've got transportation hurdles with dead ends and the way that the neighborhoods are set up. You've got to consider neighborhood cohesiveness throughout. You've got transportation times that you're keeping into consideration. And then you've got changes in future capacity. So all of these pieces really lead into making informed decisions under those guiding principles. The other thing that I wanted to go over really quickly in case some were unaware, I'm sure that there are many that are aware, but your feeder system is fairly clean comparatively speaking to compared to other districts, meaning that elementary schools for the most part feed in directly into middle schools and they feed directly into high schools. Your middle and your high schools all share the same boundaries with one another, so they are direct feeders. However, you have 4 splits from elementary into middle. They are the area here in Elmont. This is in the purple is Elmont. This area here is Elmont, and then the darker line shows your current middle school, high school lines. And so this area currently goes to Elmont with their cohort for K through 5. And then the rest of Elmont goes to the north. These students actually go to the south to Chickahominy Middle School and Atlee High School. These students here in yellow, these students are assigned to Kersey Creek. So they go to Kersey Creek with the rest of the yellow boundary here. However, for high school and middle school, this area here, just this area here, is assigned to Chickahominy Middle School and Atlee High School. The rest of Kersey Creek attends Oak Knoll and Hanover. And then there is a small little cutout here in Pearson's Corner. It's a smaller neighborhood. These students go to Pearson's Corner with their cohort K through 5, but then these students here attend Oak Knoll and Hanover, and the rest of Pearson's Corner goes to Chickahominy and Atlee High School. There's one more split down here on Mechanicsville. It kind of splits right down the center. So the northern portion goes to the north and the southern portion goes to the east. These are pretty populated areas here in the north and in the south. So it would be hard to clean up feeders or keep cohorts together in that situation. So it's important to keep all these into consideration when you're looking at elementary boundaries as well as middle and high school boundaries. With that, I'm excited to announce that we will have 3 in-person community engagement meetings, community forums at the end of this month. The first will be on Monday, January 27th at 7 p.m. at Atlee High School. The second will be on Tuesday, January 28th at Patrick Henry High School, all at 7 p.m. And the last one is on Wednesday, January 29th at 7 p.m. at Mechanicsville High School. I also want to let folks know that we will have a virtual opportunity that will give a presentation that gives more context to the potential options, as well as an interactive map that folks will be able to get a little bit more context with the options, as well as a survey that will be going out. So we hope to see many of the community members at the end of the month gather their feedback and inform the decision-making going forward.
Thank you very much. It was a wonderful presentation. We appreciate the opportunity to talk with you in the work session this afternoon also. Are you satisfied with the information and input and everything that you're getting, and you're being able to do you're being responsive and being able to give us what we need out?
Absolutely. I will say that the committee has been phenomenal. They've been really hitting these scenarios hard. They have been looking and doing their due diligence. We look at a lot of scenarios that are kind of interim scenarios. They try a lot of different configurations and see what works and more importantly, what doesn't work. I always say knowing what doesn't work is almost more important than knowing what works, because somebody else is going to have that same concept. It's important to know the why. And so they've been doing a fantastic job going through those scenarios, and they've put a lot of work in. So I want to give huge shout outs to the executive team.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the board members? Thank you very much. We
Thank you
appreciate it.
so
Good
much.
job. All righty. With that, we'll move right along to our quarterly discipline report. Dr. Maltby.
Good evening, Chairman May, members of the board, Dr. Pennycuff, and senior staff. I am here today to review discipline data from the first 9 weeks. This is an abbreviated version of what was presented at last month's work session. So getting into it, first of all, of course, we base our work, specifically this, on the comprehensive plan, looking at Goal 4, which is identifying, designing, and implementing systems to support positive educational climate and community. Within that, Goal 4 is implement a proactive approach to student behavior and school discipline. Diving specifically into the data from the first 9 weeks, we have broken this up into elementary, middle, and high. So the next 2 slides are specific to elementary. The breakdown here, the chart in front of you, is first of all, ISS incidents, students receiving in-school suspension, the number of days based on those incidents, and then the third column there is unique students involved. Just a little note, you may see that there's more students than there are incidents. That's because there are incidents that involve more than one kid. So what you'll see sort of across the top there is students received from the first 9 weeks in elementary school, 25 days of ISS, 58 days of OSS, and then you can see the corresponding incidents, then the corresponding days and the unique students for each. Additionally, we've compiled the list of the top 5 codes used during the first 9 weeks to discipline students. What you'll see there, starting with the number 1 code, is reckless behavior was used 19 times. And then from there, you'll see minor physical altercations, refusal to comply, fighting, and use of force against staff. I will continue to compile data during the second 9 weeks, third and fourth. I will bring that to you as well. And starting at the end of this second 9 weeks, so I'll be returning to you very likely at the board session or the work session in February, we'll be able to start comparing year-to-year data as well. So looking at the middle school data, again, you'll see 139 incidents for ISS, which resulted in 208 days of ISS that was involving 143 students. And then again, you'll see OSS across the bottom. What you'll start to see as we move into middle school, of course, those number of days of ISS and OSS, the number of incidents increase. I also just want to put a note out there, as we start to see students getting older, the days that students are suspended also increases. So the behavior you might see getting maybe a day or 2 of ISS at a lower level starts to increase over time. Also, the introduction of long-term suspensions, alternative suspensions happen. So if a student was suspended and upheld, say, for 45 days, that cluster involving 1 student would all be accounted into this total. So when we also look at middle school discipline codes, what you see is the number 1 code on here is violation of the school board communication policy, specifically phones, right? Following that, refusal to comply. I won't tell you there's a direct correlation. I will, however, tell you that some of those are reflective of those students who, for the first time, were told, I'm taking your phone and you can't have it back at the end of the day. So we'll see during that first 9 weeks, especially, folks came at this hard, right? So our admin were taking those phones, they were addressing the situation, those communications went home. And as you can see here, the number 1 code used by far was the cell phone code. As we move forward again, high school, you'll see again, ISS incidents 214 resulted in 359, unique students 216, OSS again. That 714 seems like a large number. I will tell you that is a composite of several 45-day type suspensions, where it takes only a few kids with longer term suspensions to equate to a larger number. So that's what you're looking at there. Again, if you look at the particular codes that are used, number 1 by far is that cell phone code. I mean, it's not even close. In both cases, middle school and high school, it's 5 times more than any other code. What I very much hope you'll see, and I've actually spoken to a couple of principals about sort of anecdotally, is that as we move through the year, that should be less and less and less. as students understand what the expectation is. It's now very clear that you will be consequenced if you continue to do this. And again, you see reflected here that it was very much approached with a heavy hand during that first 9 weeks. What I really want to dig into a little bit is about, so what are we doing to be preventative? What are those proactive measures we're taking? What are those things that you all supported moving into this year so we could get ahead of discipline? And so just I'll read through the list with you guys for a second. The substance abuse issue continues to be a problem. We now have 4 of our counselors, 1 for each of our corridors, and they are working consistently. I want to say there was a point last year where we maybe had, through the first 9 weeks, had about 60 incidents where students were working with one of our substance abuse counselors. We are now at closer to 80 in that first 9 weeks, right? So there's more total cases. We have a new assistant principal at Georgetown, which is fabulous, really allows that extra time to get in and work with kids, establish programs. The 2 new elementary behavior coaches have moved us much closer to a one-on-one in each school, which really allows for the assistants of the school to work with kids, to work with teachers, to get those tier 2 supports in place. VTSS, our Virginia Tiered System of Supports, is now in every school. Every school has a coach, every school has a team, so that they can really dig into that individual school's data to figure out what they most need to help support the kids in that school. Again, we've expanded our teams, and just a note there, we had division threat assessment training, which we would do every year to work with any of our new faculty or any of our new folks that need training at the admin, counselor, psychologist, or social worker level. We've even invited anyone who wants to be an admin in the future to attend that. Our state law says anyone who may be a part of that threat assessment team should be a part of this training. We had that most recently, and this is something that we redo every year for anyone that needs it. With that being said, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dr. Malby. Any questions or comments? Mr. Seifert.
I don't think those numbers are that high for the phone violations when you consider, how many kids and all of that, but just wanted to make sure that that number isn't a distraction, that it's not distracting from what's going on at the school,
I mean, it took effort, no doubt. When we roll out a new policy like that, not only the communication, but the implementation of not only delivering the expectations broadly, not just to the school, but to the school community, but also making sure that everyone in that school, all the teachers, all the faculty, all the admin were on top of it. So early on, yeah, it was, they had to come in heavy to make sure it was communicated what those expectations were. And then folks got to see the accountability for when folks violated that. I hope that becomes less and less as it becomes more just a part of culture.
I mean, if it stayed the same, is it still a good policy and you support it, or?
So it's still new, right? And my hope very much is it's less. And that's what I'm hearing, but we're still learning. Over time, I would certainly hope that there's less of a problem. Again, as more and more kids realize that this is now an expectation for all of us, regardless of age.
And the second question, opinion here, but the new phone policy, do you think it might help reduce other discipline problems? Fewer fights, fewer whatever? Because
I hope so, right? So the taking away of that communication device, specifically that social media posting throughout the day, the taking the videos and being posting. Can I tell you I've seen it directly? Not yet, though over the course of the year, again, when we go back to look at data versus last year, I certainly hope that's true.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Coach?
Yes, I do.
Go ahead.
Since, like Dr. Fisher gave us some information about language arts and reading and things like that, and I believe in March, Dr. Pennycuff, we're going to have a little update on math. And when we do these academic things, we look at past performances and we rate those kind of things academically. I'm just kind of curious, we, at the end of the year, get a quarterly report or an end of the year report that breaks down school by school. Do you look at school by school as a result of that first quarter to see if we're having any trouble spots that shows that the schools that were a little bit more challenged last year in discipline, and I do happen to know that answer, are they working in that same direction, or have they improved at this time of year from a year ago in the first quarter? And again, take away the calm and take away the refusal to comply. But like if you go to the middle school and you look at the last 3, are we about on par with minor physical altercation, a violation of acceptable use, and profane language and gestures and things like that?
So I could take a look at last year's numbers, and what I said is.
And even the previous years.
Yeah, and so what I said is starting next 9 weeks, we'll be able to put them side by side, so we'll have that direct comparison. From memory, I actually believe those numbers are a little bit lower as well.
Okay.
So I think we're making some positive gains there.
Because I know the individual principals do. I just, from not having to go to all the different principals and ask, I'd be curious to know how we set right now versus 23, 24, 22, 23, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and so I can tell you
With
that
first quarter numbers.
Sure. What I can just say, just as an aside, that we review those numbers all year long. Dr. Pennycuff, Ms. Greif, and I are actually meeting on a monthly basis to review those trouble spots, specifically those individuals that are rising to a higher level to figure out how best to support those kids in schools. And those are the kids that are taking up the most time, have the most discipline within those schools. So yeah, we're having not only conversations about schools, but individual conversations about kids, about how best to support them.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anybody else? Any other comments? Thanks, Dr. Malby. I would just like to say that I know that the principals do support still the phone policy,
Yes,
and
sir.
there's no doubt about that. And we're going to get it. It'll get implemented and working well. And it'll probably take us a couple of weeks to get back into this semester, but it's going to be okay. Thank
Yeah.
you very much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yep. Okay, next we have a couple of, well, thank you, Mr. Martin. No, I just appreciate you getting up and making an appearance. Everybody know you're here. How many are you taking? All righty. Proposed policy and regulation revisions, Ms. Hahn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So what you have before you, you'll see on the agenda that there are actually 3 items listed. As you recall, during work session, the board's desire was to pull back the change to Regulation 6-5.2C. So that will be not considered for first read this evening.
Right.
What you have.
I'll make a comment about that when you finish the other 2.
Certainly. What you have left, one is the result of kind of a wholesale change in the Code of Virginia and the way that the code refers to tobacco products. So it's not really a change in the intent of the statutes or even of our policy. It's really just a change in language. So the code now uses retail tobacco products in place of tobacco products. They're using hemp product intended for smoking as opposed to nicotine vapor products. That doesn't mean that we are no longer addressing nicotine vapor products. Those items are now included within the definition of retail tobacco products. So it's a bit of an expansion and just a change of language. You will also see policy 6-3.14, substance abuse education. This has been a big push, as I'm sure you all know, for educating everyone on the dangers of fentanyl. So it includes a provision that, quite frankly, the schools have known about and have already been in the process of putting in place the awareness information on fentanyl. The other thing that this policy does to reflect a change in the code is it adds gambling as a to the list of safety hazards. So not just other type of addictive items, it also now includes gambling. And again, these are on for first read. There's no action needed by the board this evening. I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
So before we ask you any questions, I would just like to comment about 6-5.2. After discussion during our work session today, we, the board, have decided that we really do not need to modify our policy, but rather we need to put a priority on implementation of the policy in all our schools. Further, we, the board, have asked Dr. Pennycuff to take a look at the form that is currently used and to see if it needs to be revised in any manner, shape, or form. And she's going to take that under her, as that is an administrative form that was developed by staff. So she'll take that under her guidance as our staff director. So now with that, we'll ask, does anybody have any other questions of Ms. Hahn? No gambling or fentanyl? Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hahn. As usual, did an excellent job.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Ms. Stone.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, School Board, and Dr. Pennycuff. I have my backup now. Mr. Frierson
There
is
he
here.
is.
Our
It's
timing
all gonna
was-
be well now.
That's right. Our timing was off just a bit during the work session. So as we discussed briefly, we did pilot a BusQuest application with the fifth grade at Pearson's Corner in the fall. There was no cost associated with this because it's a feature associated with their routing software. So we're able to just kind of turn it on and start using it. The pilot began in October. Parents received an introductory email, and then they also had an activation email where they could register the account. As we talked about earlier today, it does not track the bus for the entire route, but you identify the particular bus stop for your student, your child, and then you can see when the bus is in close proximity. It doesn't work for a substitute because if they're driving a different bus, it's not tracking that bus per se, or for extracurricular activities. So what we did is when they registered, they were given access to a detailed guide. I think what we learned was that while we had 50 plus parents that attempted to register, there were only 30 really that started to participate. Some did not get all the way through the process. We did a survey in December. We had 7 responses and 1 verbal, and 4 said it was great, it was excellent. Those people who were actually using it loved it. And the other 4 said, I had trouble activating, it was too complicated. And they identified an email activation issue that we originally were not aware of. So there is 1 email associated with the activation. If you wanted to add another, there was a process that transportation needed to go through to kind of accept that additional email. We understand that process now. And so I think we can do a better job of communicating with parents and ensuring the activation, ensuring that they have more information. If they are unable to really register, then we can identify those and help them. So we'd like to propose that we extend the pilot to all grades with Pearson Corner. We're going to track those email activations better, and then we'll send out more communication to the parents, and then also try to send more communication in regards if you're having trouble, what do you do? Reach out to the transportation office. We think we'll have maybe better participation, and based on that, we'll likely be back to you and talk about maybe rolling it out to other schools. So I'd be happy to take any questions, which I will likely look to Mr. Frierson.
Well, I was just going to say, now that Mr. Mr. Frierson's here, no one's going to have any questions. So any questions for the board? Ms. Welch?
If and when we decide to roll it out across the county, is there a cost associated with it, or is there no cost because of our routing if we roll it out to everybody?
There is no cost associated with it, and we would likely want to roll it out 1 school at a time because there is some work with that. Now, with that said, with any software vendor, we will continue to have that conversation with them and make sure that they don't come back 5 years from now and say, oh, where this feature was free to begin with, now there's some cost. But at this time, I'm looking, Mr. Frierson has given me a heads up. So at this time, there is not.
Would you stay within the center of the county since you started at Pearson's in your next school, or would you start going west or east on something like that?
West.
We have
the
not
beast
had
is in the
that.
east.
Yeah,
Yeah, but the
Mr.
west
Frierson
is-
and I have not had that conversation. Feel free to email me ideas.
Miss Lynn and I are on either side of you. You know it's going west next, right? Because you're between us. That's right.
And I'm in the
Anybody
center,
else?
I'm in the center of
Yeah,
the
Mr.
universe.
Coleman.
The registration issues, is that user error or software error?
I think it was a combination. I think what we have to do is better communication and better support. So it's likely parents they started it, they became frustrated. There's also a timing associated with what you do first. And we have a reason to believe that we didn't communicate that well. So they started with step 2 as opposed to step 1. And I know that's true. I can't tell you what those steps are per se, but we just feel that we could do a better job of getting guidance to the parents of how to register and how to activate.
Go ahead.
I wonder if a middle school or a high school might be better? I don't know. I mean, I know you've got limited maybe from high school, but just because they are tech savvy. I don't know. I know it's for parents,
Let-
but they, I mean, I don't know.
Let them figure. I think they, look at Mr. Frierson. Doesn't he look like he's got this under control?
And maybe the first of the year is the first of the school year. We're just inundated with stuff as parents. so
True.
Maybe
True. It gets lost in the shuffle.
Right.
possibly.
Mr. Seifert?
I would also say for middle school and high school students, there's a great app, Life 360. So I think the older kids have their phones, able to have them on the bus, and very easy to track them with the.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Ms. Stone?
No, none other. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you very much. With that, as we get ready to go into public comment, I just have to make one comment that is, being a chairman of the school board, a member of the school board, you miss a lot of things going on in your life. And tonight, my granddaughter cheered her final game at Chickahominy Middle School. So I missed it, but she knows that Papa was thinking about her. So, and with that, we will move into public comment. The school board conducts the public comment segment of its meeting to receive information from the general public on matters related to Hanover County Public Schools. Per board policy, the total time allotted for public comments shall not exceed 60 minutes. Speakers addressing the school board are requested to follow these guidelines. As each speaker is recognized by the chairperson, the speaker is asked to clearly state the speaker's name, magisterial district, and the subject of the speaker's comments. Speakers are asked to address their comments to the board and not to the audience. The board requests that the audience refrain from responding to the speaker's comments with applause or other audible expressions of approval or disapproval. The time allotted to each speaker shall be 3 minutes. Each speaker's elapsed time will appear on the screen. Speakers will also receive notification from the vice chair when their time has expired. Although the board does not permit the use of slideshows or other projected materials during this segment, speakers are invited to provide printed copies of such materials to the board. The board expresses its appreciation for the public's comment and cooperation during this segment of the meeting. And with that, I'll turn it over to you, Coach Eikenberry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'd like to appreciate all 9 speakers today with giving our clerk their magisterial districts ahead of time. I can't remember a time where we had a unanimous list, so I appreciate all that when you registered greatly. Starting us off tonight is Connie Piper, followed by Kristen Stevens.
Hello, my name is Connie Piper and I live in the Beaver Dam District. And I was here tonight to talk to you about the revision to 6-5.2. I'm very pleased to hear that you are not going to change that to allow for anonymity. I think that that was a terrible idea and it would have led to more distrust and lack of transparency and dissension. That is where my written comments are going to end. I do want to share a few things because as you consider this policy, I feel like we've spent so much time in the last couple of years talking about this policy. I did just want to make a couple of comments for you to consider as you review the policy and possibly the forms that are used for it. First of all, the legislation which was passed last year does not require the removal of books for sexually explicit conduct. In fact, the model policy that the state provided actually said it was not to be used to censor library books. It was expressly said it was for notification to parents for instructional materials, of which most of the library books are not used in direct instruction. I also want to point out that reading in its entirety is important. The state law for obscenity looks at a work in its entirety. It is lewd sexual conduct across the content of a material. There are reasons sometimes for there to be some sexually explicit content in an age-appropriate manner in a book, such as a nonfiction book. If my personal child was not comfortable, I hope they would be, but if they weren't comfortable coming to me with a question, it is age-appropriate as you're going through adolescence to have questions about
sex, about your body, about other people and sexual relations. I would much prefer my child go to a nonfiction book and read material that has been fact-checked and looked at and reviewed than go to the internet, or heaven forbid, go to their friends who may not have correct information to share with them. So I think if a child is curious enough to be looking for that book, it does take effort to find that book. It's not just sitting on display. They have to go and seek that book out. Then they have a question, and that question needs to be answered in an age-appropriate way. There is a reason we have a committee to make the decision to remove a book. It is very serious to remove a book from 17,000 students, and the bar for that should be high. The reason the committee includes teachers, librarians, and principals is because we are experts at what is age appropriate at different levels. And those are the kinds of questions that are discussed in those meetings. So I hope that you will continue that. Finally, I would like to say if the school board does decide to use their right to remove books, I feel that should be publicly voted on so that the public is aware that those decisions have been made. We already have a policy in place that allows every parent to determine their own child's reading selections, and we already have a policy that works, if we'll trust it, to allow a community member to question materials in a school classroom library.
Thank you, Ms. Piper. Thank you. Kristen Stevens, followed by Kristen Holte.
Kristen Stevens, Mechanicsville. I stumbled upon a new word this morning, exhaustor-whelmulated. It's the feeling of being exhausted, overwhelmed, and overstimulated. And it perfectly describes how I felt when I saw the agenda for this evening. Because a community member was able to be present and live stream the work session, I was able to hear some of the discussion that was had earlier this afternoon. I know others will better address your propensity for banning books. My request is to Dr. Pennycuff, since you were tasked with the challenge of reviewing the book form challenge, don't let it go to an anonymous situation. My gut tells me that the parent that wants to remain anonymous is one of our locally elected officials who are parents with students with an HCPS and have already taken some heat for challenging picture books. Even if it's not one of them, any person who feels they need to challenge a book and remove its accessibility from all students in this county should have a strong enough spine to stand up for their convictions. I really came to express my concerns for the change in the Health Science Specialty Center and athletic participation. To begin, I find it pretty shameful and disappointing that many board members do not understand how that program actually works and how the students in our county are transported to the high school for that program and how it is completely different from ACA, ROTC, and the trade school. My daughter graduated from the Specialty Science Center in 23 with her pharmacy tech. She's a lifelong gymnast and was on CMS and Hanover High School's gymnastics team in addition to her competition club that she trained with. She is one of the 7% of all high school students nationwide that go on to participate in collegiate sports. Her pharmacy program got her in the door at her university, and her gymnastics got her on the acro and tumbling team. Both of those got her scholarships for her education because she's a student before she's the athlete. I still haven't really heard the why behind why you guys are changing or entertaining changing a program that works. It sounds very much like you're fixing a problem that doesn't exist, which you like to do. I do hope that this isn't the outside influence of parents or coaches who are more interested in the athlete instead of the student. Although I've heard the mission of Hanover High School football is to build better husbands and fathers who show up, love, and don't quit.
30 seconds.
Perhaps there are some students and families that want their sons groomed to have a ring by spring, so sending them to the Specialty Science Center is their best option. The possibility of an NCAA future is high stakes. It's become an even more high stakes money game with the addition of the NIL. And I'd like to think that you are not choosing to put the athlete before the student in considering these changes. I encourage you to keep this program as is until you all finish addressing actual problems like the redistricting and potentially expanding our trade programs, at which time addressing changes to the Health Science Center might be more appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Kristen Holte, followed by Charlie Hogue.
Good evening, school board and administration. My name is Kristen Holte of the Cold Harbor District, District. I am appreciative to speak tonight, and I'm glad that there was no snow today. I want to wish you a happy new year. You know, I like to be positive. You know, I don't spew hatred like some other members of the audience. I want to show my appreciation to the Hanover County School Board and all it has accomplished. I know firsthand that the left, ACLU, NAACP, bully, threaten, and intimidate, and put on a full-blown fake choreographed show with twisted information and lies to spread misinformation. They are hypocrites, for they scream tolerance, but only tolerance for their views. Dr. Lisa Pennycuff, I appreciate you and your professionalism. You are a good fit for Hanover County and definitely qualified. I am rooting for you. I am so glad that corporations are doing away with their diversity, equity, inclusion policies, for they are not beneficial for the community at large. In the last few days, Meta ended its DEI policies, and McDonald's has revealed a major shift in its corporate policies, stepping back from its diversity, equity, and inclusion DEI initiatives. There is no perfect county, but I believe Hanover is as close to perfect as it can be. There's no perfect utopia county. So people who want to criticize every little thing, I'd like them to find a perfect county. As far as the phone policy, it takes time for kids to adjust to not having a phone, because with this culture, they're used to constantly having a phone and texting and videotaping. As far as the book policy, if a parent wants to get a book for their child that is sexually explicit, they can get the book themselves and show it to the child because it's their prerogative. The schools do not have to. If a book has a sexually explicit picture that is totally inappropriate for the age, it should not be in the school. I will continue to support our Hanover County School Board, for they have been absolutely patient, respectful, and accommodating to the left, ACLU, and NAACP.
20 seconds.
When the same cannot be said for the left, ACL, and NAACP. It's amazing how disrespectful I've heard some of the audience members can be. I just want to bring a positive aspect, because I do appreciate all of you. Thank you very much for letting me speak.
Thank you. Charlie Hogue, followed by Bridget Charles.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Charlie Hogue, and I'm in the Ashland District. And this is regarding media literacy in schools. One of the nation's largest and fastest growing educational technology platforms, Newsela, is also a foremost provider of media literacy lessons for schools. The platform, started in 2013, has experienced tremendous growth. Its educational products are used in over 90% of schools. In an educational context, the term media literacy is intended to conjure the politically neutral image of educators helping students become more fluent and well-read. But the actual field bears little resemblance to traditional literacy. Media literacy organizations, including the well-known government-funded media blacklisting organization NewsGuard, have focused on creating products for educators to teach students not how to read or think critically, but instead teach students what they should read. Media literacy organizations teach which courses and perspectives students ought to trust and which ones should be avoided. Newsela's function in the education system revolves around the idea of publishing content from only approved sources. In their own words, Newsela curates material from trusted sources and makes it instruction ready for ELA, social studies, and science classrooms. The content from these trusted and vetted sources is rewritten by their editorial staff to be easily read and interpreted based on a child's reading level. These trusted sources are exclusively establishment-approved partisan publishers such as the New York Times, Washington Post, Associated Press, and The Guardian. None of Newsella's over 100 content partners are non-establishment. Even moderate right-of-center outlets like the Wall Street Journal and Fox News are absent. As detailed in a recent, as detailed in a recent FFO report, Newsella sparked controversy.
30 seconds.
Recently due to an uncovered investigation by Accuracy in Media, which caught teachers on camera discussing how Newsella could be used to smuggle partisan ideologies like critical race theory informed 1619 Project into classrooms and teaching assignments against the wishes of parents and state policies. I would just like to add that I support Dr. Pennycuff as Hanover's next school superintendent. Thank you.
Thank you. Bridget Charles, followed by Peggy Lavender.
Good evening. Happy New Year's to all. Now that I got that positivity out the way, let's get down to business. This is a new year, but unfortunately, we have the same issues. We still face the issues of the racial disparity in our school systems, and my prayers is that you will evaluate your policies to make it fair for all races, and my goal is to stand on every desk to make sure that you do. As someone who is very involved in the community, I have spent more time defending people and children of color than I have servicing all those in need in Hanover County. My question to you is, what are you looking to change or do about the issues of the racial disparities in our school systems? How long are you looking to ignore the voice and change and act as if there's no issue? I want to say a great job to Mr. Maltby on his presentation. Next time, put in there how many students of colors are receiving the discipline. I will continue to press the issue of needing more than just one person. There needs to be two people, and as well as trained with dealing with all cultures. Fix the things that need to be fixed and not the ones that don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Peggy Lavender, followed by Chris Webb. Is Chris Webb here? Oh, how are you?
Good evening. My
Good
name
evening.
is Peggy Lavender. I'm in the Mechanicsville District. I had to muster some courage to come back and speak to you all after what happened last time. I would like to say again that I have been doing this for 6 or 7 years, and my personal experience as a community activist, as a volunteer, serving on committees, raising 3 kids in the school division should count for something. I shouldn't be automatically questioned when I tell you my personal experience and my knowledge of the school system and what changes need to happen. My personal experience also should not be called into question when I express it in public. So what I want to talk about tonight is the book policy, another issue that I've been very involved with since it started coming to Hanover, because it was like a wave of a bad smell coming across the country, and I knew it would get here eventually. So I looked at my email, and the first email I sent about this was in November of 2021. So I was glad that that was removed about changing the book policy. It should be hard to ban a book from 17,000 other students in the county. You guys already have carte blanche to pull a book off the shelf, and nobody needs to know a thing about it. That's what I believe has happened a couple of times. So knowing what books are being targeted requires a lot of effort. And somehow that was the secret. The book that came up in the work session today, nobody wanted to say the title of it. I don't understand that. So I would like to know that information so I don't have to FOIA it. It shouldn't be a secret. I have spent lots of time and some money FOIAing information about books that are being challenged. There's no transparency there. So I've asked before and I'd ask again that that changes. I want to support our librarians and say that they are paid, highly qualified, highly trained, very dedicated to their jobs. They're experts, and they should be included in any changes regarding instructional materials and library books. I'd like to hear that the plaques are on the way to recognize Black students in our community. And
30 seconds.
it's going to be a great time when those get unveiled. There needs to be a lesson in our public schools about why we're putting plaques up. Every student in our schools needs to know that story. And what else did I want to say? Well, I can't remember, but thank you for letting me speak. Have
Thank
a good
you.
night.
Chris Webb, followed by Pat Hunter Jordan.
Good evening, I'm Chris Webb. I'm from
Good
the
evening.
South Anna District. And I'll be speaking, or I'll be reading a letter from a Hanover County Public School employee regarding the library policy this evening. I approach you as a licensed public school educator in the state of Virginia with more than 30 years of experience in the field. Most importantly, I approach you as a parent whose own children have been entirely educated in the Virginia public school system. As a Hanover County Public School employee, I've optimistically and patiently waited to hear of a policy change update for our school and classroom libraries to allow for the automatic reinstatement of all books removed in our district during the past few years, most of which were removed without an official complaint ever being submitted or a vote being taken. I've optimistically and patiently waited to hear a policy change update that ultimately gives credence to the many educators and librarians who are trained, many with graduate level degrees, to educate and promote reading among all students. Instead, now we are faced with yet another policy change that would allow for anonymous community voice in the submission of a book challenge. During the past 2 years, our district has removed 91 books, more than 3 times as many as the second leading district in Virginia. That move has silenced those authors and their stories and has subsequently made their books unavailable to all students here via Hanover County Public Schools. The decision to remove most of these books was made without parental input, teacher recommendation, or consideration for literacy standards. Since the removal of these books, we have given our parents total voice and choice for their own children's level of access to school and classroom library books. Yet even in these drastic measures in place, we are considering in the year 2025 to give more leeway to the removal of library books by anonymous citizens, parents, or politicians. As a mom, I understand that what it means to guide my children and monitor exposure to material that I or their father deem is inappropriate. During my children's years in the public school setting, I never once felt that the school or classroom library were a threat to the values my husband and I share for our children. Instead, my concerns and worries lies elsewhere. I've always been concerned about access to inappropriate content via the internet. I've always been concerned about fraud and identity theft. I've always been concerned about my children's personal safety in the cyber realm. Finally, I worry about all children being seen as competent contributors and accepted by others in our society and the world. As an educator, I worry about the regression in learning resulting from school closures during the pandemic of 2020. I worry about how we're going to work together to increase reading stamina and joy after analyzing statistics that clearly show that reading for pleasure is on the decline.
25 seconds.
These are priorities as a parent and as an educator. These should be our shared priorities as we look to the future. Our collective priorities should be focused on our district's vision, empowering confidence, productive lifelong learners. At this time, I implore you to move to a different direction. Please discontinue utilizing policy to silence voices and remove material that to many may be considered invaluable. I'd just like to add, I think this would have been much more powerful read by the person who actually wrote it versus me reading it anonymously. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Pat Hunter Jordan, followed by Amanda Cronenberg.
Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
My name is Patricia Hunter Jordan, Cole Harbor District, and I would like you to know about the positive things that our NAACP is doing. You know, all during the Christmas holidays, we were there helping our school children, providing food for them, providing gifts for them. during this last time when we had water outages, we again provided food for our students in our schools. We are a very positive organization. We don't speak words, we act. That's what we do. When there's a need, we meet the need. That is what I call positivity. Now, for me, I want to first thank this wonderful curriculum team, the wonderful work that they have done to increase what we have been talking about for at least 2 or 3 years. Again, a positive move. We, the NAACP, said that a change was needed. And I'm grateful that they've acted on that. And you can now see the positive results coming from the work. We want to thank them for that work. I also know that we're supposed to come here and speak to you about issues that you can do something about. I don't think anybody up there can do anything about the NAACP. And so I find it shameless that I have to come here every month and hear someone attempt to discredit our organization, and nothing is said about it. That is the criteria for speaking to you, to speak to you about things that you can do something about. So again, I'd like to say that I'm excited about the developments there. What I would like to see for this year is that you focus on the main things, as Mr. Eichenberg said. Let the main things be the main things. Our students need your help with mental health. We need to make certain that punishment is carried out equally. We need to make certain that our athletes are looked after and protected and punished when necessary. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Amanda Cronenberg, and that's it.
Hi, I'm Amanda Cronenberg, and I reside in the Ashland District. And I see and appreciate each and every one of you for being here today. I want to start positive. I came here to talk about the proposed change to the book policy, and I am very appreciative that you chose to not make that change because, to my knowledge, it would be the 4th change in 2 years to none of the changes which involved the input from professional librarians or teachers. So now, Dr. Pennycuff, that they have tasked you with updating the form, I just want to ask that you make sure that the form keeps the person's name on there and that people are not allowed to challenge a book anonymously, because you already, as a parent, have the right to challenge and keep your child from reading any book that you want. But if you want to restrict mine and everyone else's children, I think you should have to do that with your name. Also, if you have an anonymous book challenge, the school board member would become the complainant in that case, which basically allows the school board member to be the plaintiff and the jury at the same time. So I ask that you don't allow any anonymous book challenges. But what I ask of the whole board is for you to drop the act. We've been told by members of the school board and proponents of restrictive book policies that the changes are to protect the children. No teenager ever died from checking out a copy of Wicked from the library. But teenagers have died because intruders entered their school and shot them. Right now, there are schools in Hanover County that do not have working intruder alarms on the 2nd floor of their building. If an intruder reaches that school, students and faculty on the 2nd floor are to listen for an announcement over the intercom, if one could even be made. in that instance. If you and the Board of Supervisors who appoint you really wanted to protect the children, you've been working on installing those alarms for the past 2 years, rather than spending your time keeping books with LGBTQ themes and characters of colors off the shelves. While you're busy protecting our children, many parents in this county are having to protect their own children from your harmful policies and complete inaction on issues that matter. Thank you.
Thank you.
I appreciate you all for your time.
Thank you for your time.
Thank
That's it,
you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I just wanted, one comment that was made earlier that I do want to, I want to just address, and it's my fault. I had it out to talk about and I didn't do it earlier, but we have purchased the plaques, the 2 plaques that will be going in each of our high schools to commemorate the students that were the first to integrate those schools. And I'm careful when I say this because people hold me to it. It's going to be here by this date, and I can't guarantee that. We are hoping, and Terry's over there watching every word that I'm getting ready to say, we're hoping that those plaques will be here in the middle of February. That is our prayer. We won't know that for a fact, but that's what we're praying for. So as soon as we know that, then we will work with the people in our community to arrange for the ceremony to hang the plaques as we talked about. The other signs that we have is the Hanover County Public Schools Central Office John M. Gandy Building sign. There are actually 2 of those. One of them will be hung on this building at the main entrance, and the other one is a sign that will go out on the road announcing that it's the Hanover County Public Schools Central Office John M. Gandy Building. And both of those we hope to be in about the same time as the plaques for the 2 new schools, but there's no guarantee. So it won't be up, probably feel safe that it won't be here by February's board meeting.
I would not expect that.
Right. But we could possibly see them by March.
Correct.
Thank you.
We will rush it as much as.
Well, I know you will. And I did the math from what you said on the time. I was just trying to make sure that I addressed that. And Ms. Lavender, before you leave tonight, I'm trying to get the name of the book for you that you asked about, because there are no secrets. We don't have anything to hide from you. The book is what the book was what was used for us to work through this challenge. And it's not that we have kept we didn't focus on the book. We focused on the process. And that's what you were here. That's what we talked about at the work session. And I'll get you I don't have it in front of me. If I had it, I don't have it in any email. I don't have it in anything. If I had it, I would share it with you now. But I think I know where it is. You were? Okay. Well, I'm just trying to save you some money because I worry about that with your FOIA request. So, okay. And with that, that concludes our public comment time. And we will now move on. And they are 2 action items, consideration of proposed policy revisions. Ms. Hahn?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. These are the policies that you saw at the last board meeting that were on for first read. I am back in front of you to ask that you adopt these revisions so they can be made officially a part of our policy manual.
Thank you, Ms. Hahn. Is there any questions of the policies? I would entertain a motion that we approve the policies as a whole.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the proposed revised policies as a whole.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Ms. Hahn. And the 25-26 calendar. Oh, that's why you were here today. I was trying to figure it out. I didn't see your name on anything here, but it is always so nice to see you.
It's very nice to be seen. Thank you so much. Yes. Good evening, Mr. Chair, board members, Dr. Pennycuff, and senior staff. At the board meeting in November, the proposed 25-26 school calendar was presented. And at that time, it was requested that we look at some other options to consider. So at the November work session, several options were presented and 3 options were selected to share via survey with our public in order to decide or hear more about preferences. And so we shared three options. The first option was the traditional school calendar. The second option featured a 4-day weekend in October for students and a full week off at Thanksgiving. And then the third option features a 3-day weekend in October for students, a full week off for teachers and students at Thanksgiving, and then a student holiday on February 16th, which was also a professional learning day in the morning and a work day in the afternoon, or a clerical day for teachers. Is there any way you can pull up not the options, but the data? It's easier to look at least yes, it's easier to look at. So we sent out a survey and we asked the respondents to identify which group they belonged with, whether they were a parent or a non-employee of a student or of Hanover County Public Schools, if they were an employee with or without students, or if they were a community member. We had 3,556 responses. The survey opened up on December 12th and closed January 8th. So we had 3,356 responses overall. And as you can see, if we can scroll down, 38% of all respondents selected option 3 as their preference. The parent non-employee respondents, 37%, selected option 3 as their preference. Employees with and without students, 41%, selected option 3 as their preference. And then for community members, it was 45.56, selected option 3 as their preference. So that is the data for you to review. And if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
So I'm sorry, Dr. Pennycuff, go ahead.
I was just going to ask that they pull up option 3 so that people can see that.
Yeah, we're gonna end up taking a vote tonight, correct? Based on this. Yeah, she's asking, would you pull up option 3? And I'm sorry, I really hate not having my back to y'all, but yeah. And it's
So option 3 was the most popular among all the groups and in the overall response. In October, that was one difference between the 3 options, in that we have October 20th as a parent-teacher conference day and a student holiday. And then we also have the full week at Thanksgiving for teachers and students, as opposed to the traditional 2-day week where the students come to school for 2 days and then they have 3 days off. Winter break is the same for all of the options. And then February 16th in this option is that is a student holiday, and then professional learning in the morning and clerical in the afternoon for the teachers. The other difference in this option is that the end of the semester would be an early release day. So instead of having 4 early release days, we would have 5.
okay. So to answer your first question to me, you have days 1 and 2 are bank time, days 3, 4, and 5 are designated in the calendar. So they're days that that are considered work days or no student days that then would be able to be used for up to 5 days, is the way I read it. Is that,
Yes.
am I
Yeah,
pretty?
we have our 3 inclement
Right.
makeup
Yep.
weather days. Yeah.
That answer your
Or-
question?
yes.
Push your button.
Use half days as a makeup day too. If we needed to go a full day, does that count?
It does. We are also allowed to use up to 10 virtual instructional days, so that are unscheduled, basically weather makeup days, and we're looking into that because we haven't needed to use those in the past few years. So we're updating our information on what is the latest requirements related to that.
Yeah, I'm going to ask you that question when we get done here. So just so you know that. So, okay. Any other questions of the calendar as presented? Yes, sir. Coach.
When did staggered starts begin?
The first day of school.
No, what year?
Oh, what
Because
year?
I don't
Actually,
remember it when I was
I'm
teaching.
sorry. I gotcha.
Okay.
It was COVID. It was 2020.
2020.
Okay, so why do we continue to do it when COVID's no longer here?
Actually, it was a practice to help welcome our students who were not continuing with the online school. And it has become something that the schools have appreciated. And at the with the calendar committee, we did have discussion about, is there need to continue that? And the school-based personnel felt it was very important and very useful, in particular for those kindergarten students and the first grade students. So we continued with the practice.
Okay.
I've
I've gotten feedback that they don't like it, from parents.
Right, I
From
tend to.
who?
I've gotten feedback from parents that they don't like
Right, from parents. What do the teachers and principals say? All the principals that I have gone to visit the week of opening school love it.
I agree.
Which is that's my feedback that I've been given, and I probably see, I don't know, 10, 12 schools on the first week of school. So,
Have we polled the parents?
no, I didn't. I'm sorry. But it allows, what it allows specifically, I'll speak elementary school, what it allows is to allow those kindergartners to come to school and get all the attention. So every teacher is out there on the first day of school and get those kids when they're crying, they don't want to get out of the vehicles. They have a teacher that will work with them and walk them to their class, and they get to spend the entire day being the important person on campus, for lack of a better word. And it's the same thing at sixth grade, because I can also say at Liberty Middle School and at Chickahominy this past year, that was a feeling. That's a pretty strong feeling about first-time sixth graders. The building is significantly different than what they were used to in elementary school. So that's the reason the teachers and the principals love it so much, Bob.
So is it for K, 6, and 9?
Yes, on day one, and then everybody else is on day two. And you have to, and it also gives them a day, Mr. Frierson left. It also gives them a day to try the bus system out. I don't mean that in an ugly way, but it does. It gives us the first day of school is not near as many students, but they're running full bus routes.
If I could offer one thing.
You may.
And the feedback from the parent, I remember it specifically, but they talked about they had a kindergartner, and the kindergartner's big brother, the third grader, wasn't able to go with them on the first day, and obviously that would have been very helpful. So maybe it's possible to have a compromise, certain situations like that, something to consider.
Yeah, we could change it around. The next year, let the third grader go first and bring the kindergartner in the second day. Is that a compromise?
Maybe.
Ryan.
I've had a kindergartner 3 out of the last 4 school years.
Congratulations.
Yeah, and we loved it. As parents, I liked it a lot.
Thank you
for getting acclimated. And I think 6th and 9th the same. That's a big adjustment.
Right, it is.
It's nice to get to school with less people, find your log.
I think you and I were at the same school at Ashland together, if I'm not mistaken.
Now, 10th grader loved it as a 9th grader because she was incredibly nervous to go. So to have the school to herself was a big thing. She liked it.
You're not getting it, Coach?
No, I've had 3 kindergartners who are in their 30s and 20s now, and they survive just fine. And I don't know. I'm just not feeling it.
Okay.
I'm really not. I understand maybe during COVID, but
the teachers
ready to close the door on that one.
Our teachers and our staff think it's a wonderful idea, and I therefore support it. And I think it's a great idea because of that. Okay. When we vote in just a minute, you can actually have that say. But Miss Lynn and I on both sides of you are going to probably vote against you if you do. Exactly. All right. Any other discussion or questions? Excellent conversation. So would you like to make a recommendation, or you want me to just make the proposal?
I'll let you do that.
Okay. We would like to accept everything you said. I will just comment, it was very interesting as you looked at the, at the statistics. You know, I'm a guy that 1 and 1 always equals 2. And so I immediately went to that. It was very interesting that it was 35 to 45% for vote 3 on every one of them. You know, it was very, it was very consistent against all the numbers. And we got a heck of a lot more responses on this than we did the first time, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Thank
about
you. I thought my
3,000.
memory was pretty good.
About 3,000.
Yeah. So I'd like to make a motion. I would entertain a motion, I guess. And I'm pretty sure Coach Ike is not going to want to make this one. So
I don't mind making a motion to approve option 3, maybe with a caveat that we could examine more thoroughly the staggered in the future.
I'll tell you, every year it is part of the committee discussion. Do we continue with staggered start? Is there a value? And the committee consistently says yes.
thank you. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Martin, who's had a kindergartner for 3 years in a row. That should be
3 out of
on the
4.
record there. 3 out of the 4. I'm sorry. Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you for the hard work. I know this was not easy, and we appreciate you taking the time and leading this charge and getting it done for us. So thank
No
you.
problem. Glad to do it. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think that's all of our action items. So before we move on, I have 2 questions, and so I'll give Terry time to prep. You could probably answer yours, Dr. Pennycuff. Terry, when do we brief the Board of Supervisors? I got board members wanting to get it on their calendar. You remember? You can look that up while I'm talking to Dr. Pennycuff.
Okay.
It may be in our calendar, but I don't have my computer with me.
I'm pulling it up now.
Thank you. And Dr. Pennycuff, you want to try to explain to us the this making up days, just because that's board members are asking me how many more days do we have to make up and yada yada yada. Can you try to give us that in a quick version?
Yeah, yes, I'll be happy to. So the way the policy with the state works is you must make up the first 5 day for day. After the first 5, you make up 1 for every 2. And the state expects us to do all we can to make up the instructional time, and they have even allowed for 10 unscheduled virtual learning days. So in the past, they have required some special caveats, like ensuring the students have food, access to Wi-Fi, and in order to be able to do their work. So that's what we're looking at now, is the last time we used that instructional strategy, the food was required. So we have applied for the ability to do those kind of meals, to have the states go ahead for when we get the other information that we need. Because our hope is that if we see another round of snow, that we will be able to use a virtual day to make up for that.
Okay.
Yes. So far, we are day for day made up, but we have used our time. We do have those early release days at the end of the year, but we'd like to preserve those for the teachers if we are able to. Thank you.
And I saw somebody did send out the notification about the change to the semester end and all that stuff, because that was another question I was getting lots of emails about. And so anyway, okay, thank you very much. Terry, do you have me an answer?
I do.
Drum
So
roll. Here you go, guys and gals.
Absolutely, if I knew how to do that. But presentation to the Board of Supervisors is February 19th.
February 19th is the presentation of our approved school board budget to the Board of Supervisors.
And we talked about next week for the presentation
To us.
by the superintendent, but the public hearing will be the following week on January 28th.
Y'all have all that on your calendar, I hope, but you got 3 weeks in a row of meetings. She did. I'm just reminding, because I've had people ask me tonight, so I'm trying to be a good chair. Right. It's
Correct.
Dr. Pennycuff briefs to the, Steve and I need to be there. The chair normally introduces the budget. But some in this room would have to know what that is. But yeah, normally we try to encourage as many board members as possible to come on the 19th. It's usually early in the afternoon. And you usually can see either the sheriffs or the fire departments the same day because they usually kind of go at the same time in the afternoons. Yeah, we'll start at 1 and we'll have an idea which one she's going to be. And it's about a 30-minute presentation. So if she's second or third, you can know it's going to be at 1:30 or 2 o'clock. Thank you, Kate. Okay. Other things at the board, you have fiscal status report, facility usage report. Oh, look, and there's the calendar of all the board-related events. If I had my computer, I would have seen that. So anything else from the board for the good of the order? Anybody? Mr. Martin? You have an hour to make up, so you got anything you want to talk to us about?
Well, you aren't going to listen to me anyway. If I
That's
did.
true. I wasn't. You know, it's really funny you said that because all I was doing is Chris sent me a note and said, I put it so and so and so and so. I'm like, oh my God, look at all these papers up here. Where did he put it? So that's what I was doing. I was trying to figure that out. Anybody else? All right. With that, I would entertain Dr. Pennycuff. You got things for next board meeting?
Yes, thank you. We spoke with the architect for CRA, and we will be ready for an update on the Washington Henry Elementary School design and the progress and next steps towards the conditional use permit to start working towards the getting Washington Henry Elementary School out for the RFP process. We also will have the revisit of the athletic options for Hanover High's Health Science Specialty Center. We will have a School Board Appreciation Month and a School Board Clerk Appreciation. We will begin the review of our Code of Conduct, and then we'll have tonight's proposed policy for action next time.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hate everybody. I'm glad there's some people that are still here, but we're pretty excited about the budget this year. And I hope y'all can find it as exciting as we are, because we think we've made some pretty serious steps towards some things that you can really see that we are trying to put our money where our mouths are and doing things to support our schools and our students, more importantly, our students. And there are a couple of, if you were at the work session today, you got to get a prelude of it, but there's some really big news coming out with our budget proposal this year. We're very excited about it, and we feel good about it. And so I encourage you to please come back or listen online next Tuesday night. I think it does start at 6 o'clock instead of 7 o'clock. So we get started an hour earlier on Tuesday night. And so we're very excited about that. And the other one is, so we got two pretty big things going on. Well, there's another one too, which I can't believe you didn't bring it up, but we did open bids. The point is that we are moving along with the process is what I was trying to say. I'm not asking you to tell any secrets. I'm just saying that the process is moving along is what I was going to try to say.
It is, yes, the bids for Battlefield Park were opened today. And so there's a process, there's a legal process to go through. However, we think we're within budget and we're feeling good about it.
Excellent. Thank you. That was the part I just thought we should share, is that we are got some positive things moving on, and staying under budget and being within budget is always a very important thing. So we don't have to go back and ask for more money.
We're 1 week away from the Beaver Dam bids coming in.
Yeah, and so Beaver Dam will be next, and then we're now getting ready to start our third. And I'll just share that we did have a meeting. The rest of the board can know this, that Dr. Pennycuff and I met with, and the staff, we met with our architects to go over any concern that may be about this is too much going on in a short period of time. And they assured us that they are fully prepared to provide us the support we are looking for to get these 3 projects going. So I share that. That's very exciting stuff. I won't spoil all the rest of the stuff because there's some other pretty exciting stuff for our budget presentation next week. And then just a reminder, we talked about it earlier, the public comment times for the new school districts. I encourage everybody to make sure you participate in that. And the other one is in the search process for our new superintendent. The board has dates locked already. We are planning on making our announcement at the April board meeting on whomever our next superintendent will be. So we want to make sure that we keep the public informed and that you have the opportunity to participate in those meetings that we're having, both virtually and in person. And with that, unless somebody's got anything else, I would entertain a motion. Oh, Ms. Welsh.
on my calendar, it says that our meeting next week is here. That's still.
That is correct. Okay. Now, may I entertain a motion from Mr. Martin?
If you're listening, I make a motion to adjourn.
I listened to that one. Mr. Coleman?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.